Welcome to season 6 of the Childhood Cancer Perspective, and thank you all for sticking with me. Now, today I'm going to give you something special, an episode with just me. I know. Don't leave. I promise it's going to be worth your while. Now, for anybody out there that has been listening or that wants to share your story, ccperspectivepod@gmail.com. Reach out to me and we'll set up a time when you can share your story unfiltered, uncensored, and anti-social media, an opportunity to say exactly what you want, exactly what you feel, and give people an insight into the pediatric cancer community. That's why I started this. It was an opportunity to share everything that I was feeling as a father and as a parent and as an advocate, and giving you insight and giving other people a way to relate to something that maybe they were thinking, kind of like there's always somebody in the class that's if you don't want to ask the question, there's always somebody that wants to ask the same question. So don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to stand up and be that advocate and be that person that brings about change. Today, I want to talk about something that is not going to be exciting. I'm sorry. The word of the day is grief. Now, grief comes in many different stages, and I don't want you to run. I don't want you to think this is going to be a downer episode or anything like that. I want to take this opportunity to really talk about the stages, the way that I see grief, and maybe you can relate to those stages and you can build on those. And again, if you want to talk about it, reach out to me and let's have a conversation. When JC passed away 4 years ago, it's unbelievable that it's been 4 years without that little beautiful voice running around here, that flowing red hair. But every single day we feel her. Every single day we feel her presence. Every single day we know that she's with us and she's guiding us in everything we do. Even in this podcast, she gives me the strength to be able to do everything that I do and not be curled up in a corner. She gives me that passion and that push, mainly because I know that she'd be sassy enough to tell me to get up off my ass and get up and do something and not just lay around. So I said, okay, I'll do it. The first stage that I think comes about with the grief, and we'll bounce around a little bit, but I'm going to start off with the way that I kind of see it in parts. Normalcy. Your child passes from cancer or any other type of, tragic type of loss like this, or anything in general. You lose a child, that's a level of grief that you cannot match with anything. Losing a child is not something that as parents that we are built to do. It's not something that we are programmed from the factory to be able to handle. Somehow we find a way because we adapt. Normalcy is about adapting. It's about adapting to your day-to-day life after the loss of a child. It's about a new way to look at things, a new perspective on things, if you will. And for us, my wife and I have 2 older daughters. One is 19, one is 17. We've got a college sophomore, and we've got one going into her senior year of high school. We have had responsibilities that we had to take care of. Even with the loss of JC, we had to find a new normal in life that gave us the ability to ensure that they were taken care of, that they were given every single opportunity that they deserved, and that they were living on in JC's legacy in a way that honored her. But we had to make sure that they were given that same respect that we gave to her, that same time, that dedication, to give them that, because they deserve it, because they're important, because they deserve to be treated just as well and give every opportunity in life. So we did that. We knew we had other responsibilities. We had to ensure that they were given every single opportunity in life, and we had to do that without JC here. We could not afford to bury our heads in the sand and not be able to ensure that they were going to be able to move forward in life and not have to worry about whether or not mom and dad would be able to provide for them. So we had that. We had to create a new normal. We had to create a life around the grief. We had to create a life that allowed us to honor JC, allowed us to keep her alive in our hearts and in our day-to-day life, but at the same time understood that we had responsibilities that, just day-to-day life responsibilities, but we had other children that deserved our attention, that deserved our love, and deserved our support with anything that they wanted to do. So I don't have them here with me, but I'm sure if you asked them, they would say yes. We did miss out on a lot when you were away at the hospital. We missed out on a lot when you guys were both off taking JC to the hospital or taking her to appointments or radiation or whatever. And I don't really know if they had any animosity towards that or they had any jealousy or anger or anything. And maybe they did. And I would say that that's normal. I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. I wouldn't say that's something that I would hold against them. I would say it's normal to want that attention from your parents, and it's all directed in one spot. and it wasn't intentional. Not something intentional as in we wanted to take it away from you. We had to put that attention where it needed to be. And so the next thing, so you lose your child. It's the worst, absolute worst thing in the world. I don't think there's anything worse that you can find on this planet that is going to be able to replace the way you feel when you lose a child, especially when they have fought for so hard or for so long and so hard and put in everything that they had and still kept a good attitude no matter what. And that is going to be something actually that is going to take you down a path of a lot of emotions. And that's the questions of what if. The what if questions will absolutely drive you crazy, will absolutely put you in a position that you are going to go through some things. So it's actually kind of take me into the next spot, which is going to be mood swings or anger. But when you're going through these what if questions, what that means is that not only are you saying, what if we would have known sooner? What if there was other treatments that were available and we just didn't know about them? What if we would have gone to the doctor a week sooner? What if our doctors would have caught something sooner? What if? You will forever. And when I say forever, I mean that and I'm pretty sure my wife still does question, what if? What if we would have done this, that, the other? The questions will go on forever. You will never reach an end. Even if your child is currently fighting this, even if your child is NED, even if your child has been deemed cancer-free and they're past the 5 years, you will still question, what if? What if I would have done this differently? Or what if we wouldn't have lived here? What if we wouldn't have eaten this? What if I would have done this? You will drive yourself absolutely mad doing the what ifs. That will lead you into the next step, which is anger, mood swings. You are going to be sad one minute and pissed off at the next. For me, I will tell you straight up, and I'll be completely honest, I have a temper. I have a tendency to get hot-headed very quickly. And if things don't go my way, it tends to get even worse. Unfortunately, that's just the way that I am. I try to control it the best that I can. I think that a lot of my anger now, or a lot of my way that I react or that kind of stuff, is because of what I've been through. And I don't use it as an excuse. I just think that it has put me in a position where things tend to irritate me quicker. And you have to find a way to kind of manage that. But that's part of the grief cycle. Finding a new normal, asking all the questions. All those questions are going to then lead to anger. Because you can find one of those questions that says, what if I would have done this sooner? What if I would have noticed this? Or why didn't you notice this? And you're talking to your spouse. Why didn't you notice this? Why didn't you do that? Why did you go here and not here? Why did you feed them this? You're going to lose it. And that is going to be something that is going to be detrimental. And honestly, I think that inability to really control it all and that inability to really reel those types of emotions in is definitely part of the reason why there is an 80% fail rate for couples in this community, because the amount of emotions that you go through, both in the battle and in the event that you lose your child, they're all over the place. And couples that can stay together are a complete anomaly. And there's something my wife and I have had this conversation. Why did we end up beating this? Why did we stay together? Why did we not break up because of it? The answer is we don't have an answer. If we had an answer, we could probably write a book. The reality of it is, I think we just found a way to sync with each other in what was going on, to sync with the common goal, to sync with the fact that we had other responsibilities and things that we needed to focus on as well, and sync with the fact that we knew that our common denominator was JC, and that she was the one that was the most important. And we were going to go through emotions. We were tired. We were exhausted. We were worn out. But we were going to go through all the emotions necessary and all the steps necessary to give her the absolute best opportunity and the best chance at life. And we did that. I don't think in that point that we didn't. I think we did everything we could. The next step is your big one, is depression. Okay. Depression is something that, again, much like grief, it hits you in a different manner depending on who you are. If you ask my wife right now, she would tell you that I should probably be in therapy, that I should probably be in a position where I could talk to somebody unbiased, unconnected to what we've been through, and be able to be there to share my story and share everything that we've got going on. Absolutely. And I don't necessarily disagree with her, But I feel like my best way of dealing with this grief and this part of it, the depression cycle, is by throwing everything that I have, both good, bad, and ugly, all of the emotions that I have, into my work. Everything that I have, I should throw it into my work. I should throw it into this nonprofit. I should throw it into this podcast. I should throw it into advocating. I think that's the best use of my time. And who knows, maybe one day down the road, I will in fact actually go and see a therapist and talk to somebody and whatever. But right now, I feel like this is the best way that I can go through this. But depression is something that hits you, and it sticks with you. It sticks with you, and you can be depressed and have a smile on your face. You can be going through things and nobody knows what's going on in your mind. Nobody knows what's going on behind those eyes. And that is something that I've noticed that our community is extremely, extremely good at, is putting up a wall. And by putting up a wall, I mean, we only allow you to see exactly what we want you to see. We allow you to see a very, very small glimpse into our life. As much as you think you know about one of us as a family, one of us as an organization, one of us as advocates, whatever, as much as you think you know by watching social media videos, or even by listening to this podcast, or by watching anything, or listening to anything, even a speech, as much as you think you know, I promise it's only a very small portion of our life that we're letting you into, because in theory, we have to be super protective of our family, super protective of our life, protective of the information that we give out, but also protective because we don't want the wrong kind of support. And that wrong kind of support can make things 10 times worse. And that's not something that we need on a day-to-day basis. That depression is something that we wear, not like a badge of honor. I'm trying to think of a way to say it, but it's something that we wear all the time. And you may or may not ever see that depression is there. We lost a child. My wife and I lost a child. My daughters lost a sister. This world lost a future NICU nurse, a doctor. They lost a compassionate person with an unbelievable drive to take care of others. The world lost somebody that was going to make an absolute impact and difference. Now, she did, and she still is making an impact, but they lost what they would have seen as she grew up and as those ideas developed and as she became more in tune with who she was and what she wanted to do. They lost that. The world lost it. Everybody in this battle, everybody in this community lost somebody the day that JC died. And every family going through this is going to do the same thing. They're going to feel the same way. They're going to lose somebody, and the world is going to lose somebody that could have been so great, could have provided so many things to this world. And watching a child go through this, and after the fact, watching a child go through this and looking back and saying, that all looks the same. That looks like deja vu to me. That looks like the end. It's depressing. And it's something that will put you in a depression. And it's something that, just the other day, I came home and I told my wife, I said, I would be going live on TikTok just to goof off and talk and hang out with friends and stuff. And I said, I just don't want to do it tonight. I'm just not feeling it. I'm just feeling sad. And I will have those days. Depression is something that it comes out when it comes out. And there could be triggers. There could be something else that happens that brings about the feelings again. Depression never really goes away. I think that's part of it. It's something that's never really is going to change. You're going to feel it no matter what. And I don't know exactly what you're supposed to do to ever fix it. And I don't think there is a way. I don't think there's drugs that are going to fix it. I don't think that stuff is going to make a difference. I think it masks what the true problem is. And I'm trying to think what the next step is going to be here and I'm going to bounce around, but the end result of a child passing away, there's a word for what it is, but the word is not relief. And I have been searching for 4 years to try to figure out what that word is, to try to understand what that word is. And I still don't know what it is. I don't know what the feeling is. When JC was at the point where she went on hospice, and she was on hospice for 12 days, when it got to that point, I think my wife and I, we didn't know how long she had when she was going to be on hospice. We sure as hell didn't know it was going to be 12 days. I don't think, we came to terms with it at some point during those days. We were at peace with the fact that we knew what was going to happen. And our biggest goal in that moment, in that time, was keep her at home, keep her happy, keep her comfortable, pain-free, and keep her at home. because the one thing that we were not going to let happen, we were not going to let the last thing that she saw to be a hospital room. That was an absolute, something that her and I agreed on, and something that was not going to change. When we had the opportunity to bring her home, and we were finally told there's nothing more we can do, the hospital fought us. They fought us and wanted us to keep her there, wanted us to ambulance ride her home, forced us, in a sense, to sign a DNR before we were able to leave with her AMA. And we did it because we just wanted her home. We wanted her to be around the thing that she felt comfortable with. We wanted her to be around her sisters. We wanted her to be around her animals, her baby dolls, her own room. We wanted her comfortable, and we fought for that. So it's not relief that you go through as part of the grief stage. It's not relief that your child passes, that they're no longer in pain, that they're no longer having to go to the hospital anymore, that you're no longer on the edge of your seat every single day when something is happening, normal mundane things that we take for granted every day, a cough, a bruise, bloody nose, whatever, that is no longer any of those things anymore. I don't know what the word is. Feel free, if somebody wants to comment or, something like that, or you want to talk about it, let me know, because I don't know what that word is, but I just don't feel like it's relief. I think relief is the wrong word, because I don't think anybody is truly relieved that their child is gone. And so that stage, I don't really know how to feel about it. You definitely feel a weight is lifted. And again, not because they're gone, but because they don't have to fight anymore. They won their battle. I think that is something that is so hard to talk about. But cancer is a thief, and there's nothing else that you can attribute it to. But so we talked about normalcy. We talked about the what if questions. We talked about anger. We talked about all of the emotions that your body will go through and continue to go through. Depression being, I think, the biggest culmination once you get past really what I call is really the initial shock stage. When JC passed, she passed at 4:15 a.m. on July 3rd, 2021. And it was almost the same exact, I definitely cried. Like, I had a lot of emotion in that moment when she passed, a lot of emotion when I had to carry her out on the stretcher and, put her into the vehicle to take her to the funeral home. I had a lot of emotion at that point. And as soon as that van drove away with her body, and I remember looking at my wife, and I was sitting on a bench outside, and she said, "Are you okay?" And of course, it's such an open-ended question in life, and nobody really ever gives you the real answer when you ask if they're okay. And I said, nobody on this street, everybody is still sleeping. They probably haven't even had their coffee yet. Nobody knows what just happened. Nobody knows that vehicle driving away has our 8-year-old daughter, her body in there. Nobody knows what just happened. Nobody can even fathom what we just went through. And then I honestly can say, I think for the rest of the day, our house was a revolving door of friends, family, neighbors, whatever, that were coming to, see what was going on. And I don't think that I cried for the rest of the day. And I look back at it and say, was there something wrong with me? Was there something wrong with how I reacted to our daughter passing? And I don't think so. I think that my body was in shock. I think it was the exact same shock that I felt when we found out that she had a mass in her brain. Because when that happened, my wife broke down, and I stood there stone-faced. And it wasn't until hours and hours later, when I finally signed a document that she was going to go for her first surgery, that I think that I finally cried. I think that it's, there are things now that I look at and I'm going through. And to be honest with you, when I see memories of her and I see videos pop up of her, I don't cry. I laugh. I smile, because I choose to remember her the way that she was. I remember the attitude that she had. I remember her bright, shiny smile and everything that she brought to a room. And I remember, the weird relationship she had with her sisters. And I remember all of these things that made her who she was. And I choose not to remember her in the way that cancer kind of changed her outside appearance. She was still beautiful, but what it did to her, and the reality is she didn't care. She didn't care about that stuff, which was also what made her so amazing. That makes all these kids so amazing, is that they're so innocent, and things like that don't bother them. But I think that initial shock stage really is something that pushed me to, it put me in a place where I didn't really know how to react. And I don't think my body knew how to react. And you never I don't know when that stage changes. I don't know when you get to a point that you can just grieve in a normal way, in a way that society says you're supposed to grieve. I was reading something earlier that says grief is supposed to last 6 to 12 months. That's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. And again, these are the types of things that I think are written by people that have never truly felt the grief of what a parent losing a child has gone through. And they maybe never even felt the grief of losing anybody. Much like I think a lot of books that are written about raising kids are by people that don't have kids. And you try to do it in a cycle and like through psychological, teachings and things like that, where it's like living it and experiencing it is where you're going to get the best ideas because you're going to see it firsthand. The difference is I didn't want to see it firsthand. I didn't want to see it out in the open. I didn't want to see it in this world. I didn't want to see it in this life. I didn't want to do it. Nobody does. So when people tell you how strong you are because you're advocating or because you're on social media or because whatever, we're not. Like, I don't see myself as a strong person because of how I choose to talk about JC or about this community, or how I choose to call out politicians or call out other people that are not doing this for the right reasons. I don't see myself as a strong person. I see myself as a father. I see myself as a husband. I see myself as somebody that is literally just carrying the voice of all of these kids because they deserve it. But the difference is, I think with me, and again, I think there's a lot of different ways that you can grieve and you can move and find that normalcy in life. After the loss of a child, I turned it into work. I turned it into passion. So whatever I feel emotionally can still bring me down, can still put me in a place where I don't want to do anything one day, where I want to sit there and just be sad and I want to cry, or I just want to sit on the couch and be left alone. I have those days. 1,000,000% I still have those days. There are times when people reach out to make sure that we're okay because they haven't heard anything from us in a few hours. I do have those days. We 100% do. My wife and I both have days like that. I think my kids do as well. They just don't talk about it out in the open. They talk to their friends, which has always been the way that we've allowed them to really kind of deal with this, is go where you're comfortable, talk about your emotions, just be sure not to hold on to them. Make sure that you're letting them out and being open with people. But the difference is I take all of that emotion, all of that passion, all of that anger, all of that grief, the depression, all of it, and I turn it into work. I decided a long time ago that the way this was going to work is that I was going to not allow grief to take over my life. I was not going to allow depression to take over my life. I was not going to allow all of this to stop me from doing what I knew was the most important, which was carrying on JC's legacy, giving her the opportunity to speak from heaven, giving her words and her impact a chance to make a difference in somebody else's life. I was not going to stop until that happened. My goal every single day is to see that child's name in lights. And if it is on the side of a building, if it is on the news, if it is wherever, she deserves it and she's going to get it. She's going to get every single thing that she should have gotten in life, period. That's the goal, and that's what's going to happen. The reality of all of this, you cannot allow it to take over. Now, I get it. Everybody grieves different. Everybody goes through times that are tough. Everybody goes through times that are hard. I just don't think you can let it take over. I've chosen not to. I've chosen to find a way to make it work. Everybody's going to do it different. Find your way. Find your silver lining in everything that goes on in your life. Find your ability to take everything you've got going against you and turn it into something positive. I choose to believe that everything we go through has the ability to help somebody else. It has the ability to relate to somebody else that's going through something similar but feels alone. When JC was diagnosed, Trish and I knew nobody in this community that was going through this. Nobody that was facing the same thing that we were facing. Nobody that had faced the same thing that we were facing, except I had one friend in high school that had something similar. But we were alone on an island with all of this. And even our friends and family didn't know how to react, didn't know how to talk to us, didn't know how to support us. And we didn't know what we needed, but we were on an island. And I wish that we would have had support of something like this, the podcast, like social media, like friends, like a network it's growing. That network is growing now and it's getting better. And it's not just because of us. It's a lot of moving parts have kind of put people in place through different organizations and foundations and events and things like that that don't allow you to do this alone. They are forcing this community to come together and just ensure that nobody ever feels like they're on an island. That's what you have to do with your grief. You have to turn it into a silver lining. You have to find a way to share your story and to keep that story going and to never, ever, ever stop, because your child's story is so important. Your story as a parent, as an advocate, as a grandparent, as a friend, whatever, is so important, because the support that you give to these kids and to these families that are going through this every single day is probably the most valuable thing that you're ever going to be able to do. Support, just being there. That support can help bring about normalcy after the loss of a child. That support can help bring about that normal day-to-day life that they need in order to kind of move forward with life in the new way that they've adapted to. That support is not going to stop the what if questions, but it can definitely aid in the understanding that you as a parent did absolutely everything that you could to save your child. You gave them the best chance possible just by being their voice, just by being their voice. The anger, the mood swings, and the depression, listen, these are things that you're going to go through. I still get angry. My anger nowadays is really directed at politicians, which is probably a common problem with everybody, politicians and people that do this for the wrong reasons, people that get involved in this for the wrong reasons and don't truly support the kids, or nonprofits that take salaries. I don't agree with that either. That's where my anger is that's where my anger gets directed at now. That's where my passion for that gets directed that way. And I try to keep it away from my personal life and from my family, because they don't deserve me to be angry with them because they didn't do anything wrong. My daughters were amazing, and they still are sisters to JC. My wife was the best and is the best mother on the planet. I did my best. I still do my best to be the best father that I can be. And my children are my greatest achievement on this planet. I will never, ever, ever achieve anything greater. No matter what I do, I will never achieve anything greater than my kids. And I will stand on that until the day that I die. And the only thing I can hope for is that we put in enough effort, time, compassion, and respect into them, that they live their lives the way that I know that they can. And they can provide the impact to this world that I know that they will. Therapy. So let's touch on this one just a little bit. Therapy is something that I think is very beneficial to people. I think just the idea of speaking to somebody that is completely unbiased to the situation, not connected to you either romantically or just in a family or a friend, not somebody that is directly connected to your situation, that has felt everything that you felt. I think that going through and being able to speak to somebody like that can be highly beneficial, because it allows you to really kind of get things out that you didn't even think you had an issue with. I went to a therapist when I was younger, like I think in my high school days. And it had a lot to do with when I was going to a chiropractor, whatever, tension and things like that I couldn't get rid of. So we sat with them just to see if maybe a lot of the stress I was feeling over certain things in my life were kind of affecting. But at that moment, I felt like I could just speak about things that I didn't think were bothering me. But therapists have a way of getting you to really kind of dig down and find things that are important to you, but maybe you don't put much significance on when people say, hey, what's going on? How you doing? You don't think it's a big deal. I kind of have that problem with my wife sometimes. I think something's wrong. She'll tell me no after about 10 times, which either gets me in trouble for continuing to ask, or I get to the root of the problem. It's usually me. But listen, I got to the root, didn't I? I think therapy is a good thing for people. I don't personally think it's something that I want to do, but at the end, maybe someday in my life, maybe I will. But at this point, I don't think I'm going to. However, I do think it is a good thing, and I think that it's not something to shy away from. If you're offered it and it's something that you have the ability to do or the opportunity to do, I would say take it. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work and you find a different way to deal with whatever emotions and things that you are going through in your life. Let's think. I think those are my thoughts on grief and the stages of grief. Those are the stages. I know this is not a fun topic. I know this is not something that's exciting to listen to, but at the same time, I think it's super important, because I think that we as a community go through a lot of the same emotions, a lot of the same things that affect us personally, a lot of the same things that affect our family. And as I said before, we are not built to bury our kids. We are not built to watch them suffer. We are not built to be completely helpless. That's not the way that we are programmed from the factory. We are supposed to be able to, we are parents. The amount of I think that I've dealt with in my own mind, and that I've dealt with as a father, and something that I've wrestled with, is that I was not able to save JC. I was not able to protect her. As a girl dad, I think that I'm even more so supposed to be able to protect my girls against anything. And I do the best that I can. In this instance, I was not able to protect her. I was not able to stop what was happening. I was not able to give her relief from what was going on. And I will forever, I think, feel in that sense that this is another part. I think maybe this will be another level. I will feel as a failure, because I feel like I failed her. I feel like I failed what she went through. I failed the ability to find a fix. I feel like I failed the opportunity to give her a life. I feel like I failed at not getting her diagnosed sooner. And unfortunately, there's nothing that anybody's ever going to be able to say that's going to be able to convince me different. It's just the way that I feel, because as a father and as a girl father, I feel like I'm supposed to protect them against everything, and I couldn't do it. And that breaks me, because I know that I have 2 other girls that I'm supposed to protect against the world. And I just hope that I'm doing a good enough job. See, this is my therapy. This is my therapy, is being able to talk about it, which I think works. Maybe it doesn't work for everyone, but I think my therapy is talking about it, which is why I want to continue to do this and be able to share the stories of not only myself, but I want to get more and more people to come on, mothers, fathers, advocates, medical professionals, families, warriors, foundations, whatever, to come on and tell your stories and tell your levels. Tell your, what are your stages of grief? What are your stages of the battle? What did you have for symptoms and for side effects and all of that? And give your insights in the hospital and how the medical teams treated you, and second opinions, third opinions, travel. There's so many aspects to this that we can talk about, and I want to be able to share all of that. So again, if you have a story and you want to tell it, and you want to be able to say it unfettered and uncensored, and be able to have that opportunity without worrying about what social media is going to do, worrying about whether or not you're going to get cut off or the video is going to get taken down, don't. This is your opportunity to come in here and share. Now, I know this wasn't the greatest, most fun, exciting episode, but I wanted to be able to share these stages that actually I did a bunch of videos on TikTok a couple of years ago about these. And I wanted to kind of go back and touch on these stages, because I think it's something that's super important. I think it's something that people need to understand, that if you are going through this, it's normal. It's normal to go through these stages and have these stages kind of, come back and sit on top of each other. And you go back to the first one and you jump to number 3, and they go in different orders. This is all normal. And I want you to relate to that. And I want you to understand that. And I don't want you to feel like you're on an island or you're doing something wrong because you're grieving the way that you're grieving. But turn that grief into positive. Turn that grief into positive. Don't let it run your life. Don't let it take over your life. So at the end of every episode, I always ask my guests to give life advice, to give advice to a family that's going through something, give life advice to a family that may be just diagnosed, or maybe they just lost a child. Give that advice. My advice to you today: do not let grief run your life. Do not let grief decide how you're going to get up every single day. Take that grief, find the silver lining to every single day, and turn it into something positive that you can provide to somebody else that may feel like they're on an island, and they may feel the same way you felt or are currently feeling. Use that ability to help somebody else, and I promise you, it's going to come back tenfold to you. You don't have to be happy every single day. You can be sad. You can have days where you just don't want to do anything. You can have days where that grief and that sadness and that depression takes over. Just make sure that you bounce back, and always know that you have a family here, somebody to lean on, somebody to talk to, somebody that relates to you, and somebody that understands exactly what you're going through. So thank you guys for sticking with me through all of this. I am working on getting that list of people to talk to on here and have different guests to bring you more episodes in this season. So thank you guys once again. I will see you all next week, and I hope you're ready for this next line of amazing guests. Have a good one.